All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Raw Intuition Health Show. We've got an incredible show for you guys today. Really excited for this one. I think it's going to be really helpful for you. So we have Dr. Kendra Kautz. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. I didn't ask her beforehand. But Dr. Kendra is a chiropractor and a holistic health consultant in Orange County, California. Her personal health history of experiencing burnout, GI issues, brain fog, poor immune function, and numerous injuries and surgeries has led her to practice in the way that she does today, which is using applied kinesiology, cranial sacral techniques, RTT hypnotherapy, and functional medicine to diagnose and treat each patient as a whole person, as I wish more practitioners would do. So we definitely need more practitioners out there like Dr. Kendra, and I am excited to have her join us today. So thank you for being here, Dr. Kendra.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will correct you on that. And we everyone always messes up my name. Uh, so that's okay. It's Kautz.
Kautz. Okay. I
Yeah.
should have known. I should
So
have known.
no, everyone always goes with that, what you said. So it's
Okay.
okay. But yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to just have like an open conversation and yeah, like you said, hopefully help some people, share some little tidbits and yeah. Do you
Definitely.
want me to talk more about like my practice? Would that
Yeah,
be helpful?
definitely. So yeah, if you could just share where people can find you, if they want to work with you, or just learn more about what you're putting out there, and then maybe a little bit about your journey into how you got to where you are today.
Okay, perfect. So you can find me on Instagram at Doctor, all the way spelled out, underscore Kendra. So usually I go by Dr. Kendra because everyone messes up my last name. We don't go by Dr. Kautz. My website is the same thing, just drkendra spelled out.com. I do virtual appointments, but I do a lot of in-person appointments in Costa Mesa, California. So that's where I'm practicing right near the airport. Um, yeah. So, I mean, you kind of gave a little summary, but
Mhm.
basically, like a lot of people that get into the health field, we had our own struggles before. And I was a pretty well-rounded athlete, I'll say. I was never like amazing in one thing, but I certainly was always really active. And um, I was playing soccer and I ended up with a pretty bad knee injury like freshman year in high school. And that's when you're trying to, get all serious and with it,
Yeah.
competitive. And my body just never seemed to heal right. And same with like getting sick often growing up. I just always had a stomach ache, always had a headache. And I didn't even realize it until I started to feel better. And my friends were like, oh, yeah, like you're not really complaining anymore. You're always, you're always saying something like that. And I also, I felt like I could never concentrate in school. I just honestly thought I just thought I wasn't that bright, to be
Mm.
honest. And I grew up with a brother who was like 4 point, whatever student. And I would sit in class and I connect with people really well and I can pick up things in that way or like have street smarts, but like in
Mhm.
terms of book smarts I just thought it wasn't for me, to be honest. So anyway, so knee injury after knee injury, and it's because my body couldn't recover. So it's like here I'm trying to come back from one knee injury and then I get slide tackled into practice and then my other knee goes out and it's like what is happening? Like why is my body not stable enough to sustain these injuries? And some of them were non-contact too, which I like we can talk about later, because usually if there's a non-contact injury or someone's not, you know it's not like a blunt trauma to you, then there's other reasons why that could be happening.
Mm.
So I'll talk about that. But um yeah, so then I went to college and my mom started getting really sick as well, and she found out she couldn't have gluten.
Mm.
So that was kind of like my first introduction to like, oh, food plays a huge role in this. And she's like, I think you might also not be able to have gluten. And as soon as I took that out, I could actually think. I was like an A plus student in college. double majoring, and I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Wow. And yeah, just everything kind of changed for me. And that was just like the step one
Hmm.
introduction. And then I kept going on this journey and obviously like fell into chiropractic school and then found applied kinesiology through that. And we'll talk about that because that's like one of the things I want to talk about. So we'll deep dive into that more. But
Perfect.
that's basically where it started. It's always when you're struggling and you're trying to find answers, it's usually where people get into the field that they're in, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I use all that what I've picked up along the way, which, like I said, we'll talk about more today. Um, and now I feel like I'm at a place where I am super active again, and I don't have to, I'm not reliant on caffeine to get me by. I don't get headaches. I don't get it's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better. So help my patients with the same, and same with like immune compromised individuals. That can be really tough to navigate. So
Sure.
yeah.
Cool. Well, wow. I didn't realize it was almost like I was listening to my own story because yeah, we have a lot of similarities.
Oh,
Soccer,
interesting.
golf. You didn't mention golf, but we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And then my mom was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which was one of the things that got me looking more into natural remedies and how to heal the body that way.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. And just so everybody knows, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but so as always with every show, we've got a free gift to give to anybody that sticks around for the Q&A, which there's always some amazing people sticking around and asking questions. So if you ask a question, you'll get you'll be in the drawing to win a free copy of 5-Star Salad Revolution, the ebook. And so just email me at matt@myrawintuition.com to get that. And Dr. Kendra mentioned her website and Instagram, and I've got that linked in the description box down below as well. So be sure to check that out, give her a follow, and definitely you'll get some inspiration and some education from her. So that's incredible. Yeah, so what we were going to talk about today, as Dr. Kendra kind of alluded to, was over the last 4 or 5 years or so, people have I've heard a lot of people struggling with just feeling like they can't get their feet under them, or they're just like a little off, like just struggling with little things. And so I figured it would be a great opportunity to have Dr. Kendra come on and share just some tips and tricks and some inspiration in how to realign our lives with, true health, with our purpose, with, just where you want to be going, right? Because I think when we can find alignment with, what we want, anything can happen, right? So a lot of doors can open once you find that right path and get back on track. And it's easy to get off track. So we're here to share with you some ways that you can do that. So yeah, before we get into it, is there anything else you want to share, Dr. Kendra?
Uh, no, but I love this already because we didn't, like I said, we didn't talk about our topics beforehand.
Yeah.
And even you just talking now, like leading into it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to mention something else now. So kind of fun just
Perfect.
to go in as an open conversation.
Yeah,
It'll,
definitely.
I like
Definitely.
it.
Cool. Well, do you want to start us off with your first idea?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So what you just said, a lot of people feel like they haven't really been able to bounce back. So pretty much something that I specialize in my practice. And it's also what was going on with me as to why my body wasn't like healing right. And I think we hear this all the time. Well, some people say it's not like an actual thing. So I'll say the other names of this, but like I think we've all heard of adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look that up online, a lot of people say that's not exactly what's going on. It's actually something called HPA Access Dysfunction. So
Mm.
that's hypothalamic, which is a gland in your brain, pituitary, another gland, adrenal, another gland, and that's that hormone pathway. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to try not to get too sciencey. I have a tendency to do that,
That's okay.
but I'm going to talk about it because it is so important, especially for, I think like I mean, the initial shock and confusion that everyone was going through during that time.
Yeah.
Uh, really affected like a lot of my patients, obviously, and I'm sure like you've run into that too, just with anyone around you, maybe yourself, I don't know.
Hmm.
So I just want to kind of educate on this pathway a little bit more. So essentially, yeah, that was a time of fear, lots of fear going around,
Yep.
um, not really knowing what to do, trying to do your best and trying to navigate a situation that no one really knew how to navigate. So that will put your body into a state of like an alarm phase. That's what we call like the initial phase. So that's that pathway I was just talking about. Essentially, when you're, having this perceived fear or stress, this pathway will get fired. This pathway also, it takes priority over any other hormone pathway in your body because this pathway secretes hormones like cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline. Um, there's others, but that keep you alive. Those are the main ones that are like keeping your heart pumping, keeping you alert. Can basically, when those things are secreted, you're getting more blood flow to your muscle tissues, like your heart rate's increasing, your pupils may dilate because your body is in a fight or flight state. It needs to survive. It's like, let's go. If something's coming at me, I am prepared. I can run away. I have better vision now, right? So so that pathway, I think, was getting overfired for so many people because they're scared. Everyone was, I probably had like a little initial phase of like, oh my goodness. And then I mean, we could maybe check on that later, but, then I kind of was questioning everything and, um, you know,
Hmm.
sifted through all the information. But still, for everyone that was scary, people were buying toilet paper like crazy. It was just a crazy time.
Yeah.
I still can't believe what we went through. Like, and I would love to hear your side of that.
Yeah.
So anyways, so that pathway, when that's getting fired, that actually will inhibit your other pathways. So you have like a pathway that goes to make estrogen, testosterone, and to your, like, it affects your gut health. So when you're in that high stress state, these other functions don't happen. So then you're going to end up with, GI distress, low hormone levels. Maybe you missed your period. There's lots of things. You're not sleeping well. You have really bad insomnia. Maybe you were pregnant during this time and then you gave birth and now you're having a terrible postpartum experience because you had this surge of cortisol and stress hormone that just tanked. And that's what happens to people when they're in this really stressed out state. So, oh, cute kitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Jack.
almost brought my dog in here, but I thought
Oh.
she'd be distracting. Um, so, and this happens to people all the time. So, like, take COVID out of it. If you are abusing caffeine, if you hate your job, and you hate going in every day, if you're in a relationship that's constantly stressing you out and you feel like you're having to, battle through that, you have kids screaming at home, you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills. This pathway is constantly fired up. And then people are wondering why they're having a terrible experience going into menopause, or why they don't want to have sex with their spouse anymore because their sex drive is low. You know what I mean? It just affects
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So I talk about this all the time. Oh, and it can affect your metabolism and your thyroid health. So anyway, okay, so let's go back because this pathway getting overfired, like I said, was the reason why I couldn't repair my tissue repair was off, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think this also happens for a lot of people, and I see it in my practice as a chiropractor. So, and the point that I was going to bring today, I kind of went back into COVID to explain that stress response, but that pain in your body doesn't necessarily have to be just from like a structural misalignment, or you overworked yourself at the gym, or something like structural, or like a
Yeah.
muscle spasm. These structural misalignments and issues and pain in your body can actually be from like chemical dysfunction, like emotional dysfunction, right? So when we have those high levels of stress hormone, cortisol, that I was talking about, that pupil dilation, your heart's pumping, all that, whatever, you actually will deplete your vitamin C stores because that is required to make cortisol. And then your muscles and your tendons need vitamin C, like for collagen, right? Like for elasticity and all that. So you'll end up being tighter. You might be more prone to injury, which is what happened to me. You also get sick more often, right? Is the kind, yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I think this, but hopefully I'm explaining it well enough to where
Yeah.
your viewers are understanding. So,
Yep.
and a really common thing that I see in my practice is, and like for myself, I went to a chiropractor since I was a baby. She's amazing. But she didn't make this connection of like why I always had my pelvis misaligned. And so
Mm.
if you've ever been to a chiropractor, usually you go in, it's like, oh, you have a right short leg or a left short leg. And that's just you. That's your pattern. No, I call BS. But I didn't know this until I was actually in chiropractic school. So really the reason that can happen is because when we have these like high levels of stress, there's essentially, so how I said that hypothalamic pituitary adrenal pathway,
Yep.
when that is getting fired, your adrenal gland is working overtime. When there's inflammation at a gland from working overtime, that ends up affecting the corresponding nerve root to like what controls that adrenal gland, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so this is why I love chiropractic, because everything along the spine controls an organ and then a muscle, right?
Yeah.
So applied kinesiology, you're looking at someone structurally, what muscles are weak, what muscles are tight, and is it actually a structural weakness, or is it a chemical thing that's causing that weakness? So with HPA axis dysfunction, you'll see low back pain, you'll see this pelvic misalignment, you'll see really tight hip flexors, a tight quadratus lumborum, like the QL, right? Like the muscle that attaches to your ribs and to
Mm.
your uh, oh my gosh, your ilium.
Mm.
So, and then also like tight adductors, maybe tight quads, maybe just tight in general all over your body. And no matter what you do and you stretch all the time, it doesn't do anything. So I'm saying those symptoms because I see this a lot, and people are like, I don't know why my back keeps going out, or I don't know why I stretch all day and like nothing's working. And why do I always have this misalignment? It's like, no, we're missing a chemical piece. So, and I think a lot of people have now put that together. It's like when I have a lot of stress, I get low back pain, like they kind of go together,
Sure.
but that's actually the reason why. So when you have an overworked, whatever it is, organ, gland, whatever, and there's inflammation at that organ or gland, because it goes spine to organ first, then that same nerve root goes to a muscle, you get abnormal nerve flow to
Mm.
that muscle. And so it'll shut off and get weak or tight because this is causing inflammation here.
Wow.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, great. So in order to help yourself realign, having that awareness that, hey, maybe this like shoulder pain that I've had chronically for forever could be tied to something else. Maybe this low back pain I've had for forever could be tied to something else. Maybe the reason I had so many knee injuries was because my pelvis was so unstable from these chemical imbalances
Mm.
that then put this weird stress on my knee. And I don't know if like, you said you have a similar story. I don't know if you had knee issues, but I don't know, it could have been the same for you.
Yeah.
So
I didn't have knee issues, but almost everything else that you said, I aligned with.
there you go. And when I do see these patients, and this was me, they tend to have like a perfectionist overachieving mindset, and that's a lot of athletes, and that's why they're good athletes. And that's what I see a lot with the athletes that I work with at UC Irvine as well. I work there too.
Okay. Cool.
That's like a little side fun thing that I like to do.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know, any
Oh.
questions, or like, can I clarify anything on that?
I mean, there was like 100 things that were just kind of like aha moments for me in that, and I should have been like typing down what I was thinking because, so did you say, so first of all, I think it's so important that you highlighted how many different impacts that having, and how many different things are causing us stress, right? Like that accumulation of all the different factors, like relationships, the COVID thing, our jobs, anything else, right? Not doing what we're what we're passionate about, I think is, something as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think people, and like you said, that will impact the HPA axis, which stems to so many other things and can create those inflammatory, issues. So just knowing that, it's like it's just such a good reminder for people that working on these different things, and it might not just be one thing, right? That could be causing the issue.
Yeah. It's definitely not just one thing. Yeah. And I mean, I think most people know this though, but if you want to list out like, well, what else should you maybe not do to, fire up this pathway over and over? Because it's not like your goal is to never have this fire or never have cortisol be secreted. Like we need it,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
But what happens is when you keep getting a signal from the body to then create more of that hormone, like I said, then these other pathways kind of just get like dished to the side because they're not as important.
Mm,
It's not as important for you to procreate or digest something, right?
right.
Like it's more important for you to survive. So
Yeah.
I think we've all heard that, like the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your being able to rest well and digest well, and then your sympathetic nervous system, which these are all housed in the spine. But that's your ability, like fight or flight. I think we've all heard that, maybe not. So yeah, but like, eating poorly, like drinking lots of alcohol will stress the
Yeah.
system. Um, but I will say, I do think there's way too much emphasis on making everything bad these days,
Mm,
and you can't eat anything because it's going to do this to you. I'm like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
like let people live,
Yeah.
because there's something to things that you enjoy, and maybe it's on the like bad list, or but I don't
Yeah.
what even like alcohol or um ice cream, whatever these things are. But yes, those do cause inflammation that will fire up that pathway, but I think it's been taken a little too much to an extreme,
Yeah.
and then that causes stress. So, and like I said, with that perfectionist mindset, I'll have some patients come in and like, Dr. Kendra, like, what else should I do? What else should I do? I could be
Mhm.
doing more. I could be doing more. I'm like, you need to do less. Do less. It's like, that's exact. I'm like basically trying to tell you, do less and things will be better. It's like
Sure.
you've been doing so much for so long, which like love that, like commend you for that, and you work hard and you're doing everything you can, but it's time for you to chill out for your body, you know?
Yeah.
So
Makes a lot of sense for sure. And did you say vitamin C is required in the production, was it of cortisol?
yeah.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So the majority of your vitamin C is stored within the adrenal glands.
Okay. Very cool. Wow. I knew that stress depleted vitamin C, but I didn't know, that I'm guessing that's a big reason why, right?
Yeah.
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 Very good to know. Cool. Love it. All
Yeah.
right. Uh anything else to share on that, or would you like me to go into my
Um,
first one?
I'll share maybe just two more things, because
Sure.
with this like chemical and structural connection, I just want to share a few more that I see commonly, maybe
Yeah.
because maybe that'll help people like realize, oh, hey, maybe I should go, look at this other avenue of how to get this nagging issue better. But
Sure.
so yeah, like I said, like the low back pain stuff, that's typically always associated with that somehow, right?
Mhm.
It's probably like the root of it, and then it's affecting other areas. But and like shoulder, for example, a lot of times, especially for women that get frozen shoulder later, that's typically tied to thyroid health.
Mm.
So just looking at that, getting that checked. But then also addressing the HPA pathway will help with that a lot of times. But in addition to supporting your thyroid, and then let's see what else when I get common. Oh, also, so even like digestive issues, or like let's say you have like a stomach bug or something your body's not really able to like eradicate well, that can also mimic low back pain too.
Mm.
So just things like that. I'm just trying to like get people's minds to kind of like expand more on this, of
Yep.
really understanding that your structural issues, especially if it's chronic and you didn't get into a car accident or it wasn't from a trauma, it just popped up out of nowhere, right? Like over time, people are like, well, I'm just getting old. No, it's probably something chemically that's happening now. Or
Sure.
like even, joint pain everywhere. That's not necessarily just getting old and whatever. A lot of times that's tied to like your liver health and how that's metabolizing things. And
Right.
so yeah, anyways, there's so much I could say, but those are
Yeah.
a few that are common.
I love it. I love it. And people in the comments are loving it too. So they say, thanks, Dr. Kendra. Vegan Knowledge JJ says, thanks, Dr. Kendra. Great info. So yeah, definitely. That was great. Great way to start us off. Right there alone could, that was worth being at the show just right there. So thank you for that. And I'll just throw out a quick one for mine, and if it brings up any thoughts for you, I'd love to hear it. So my first one is to change. So mine's a little more mental. I guess they could both be mental, but so change how you speak to yourself. Right. So that's going to be my first one. That's like a fundamental thing to help people get back on track in their life. Is how you speak to yourself. That's gonna be the biggest thing that directs your life in general. Because if there's nobody else outside of you, even though that they can have, obviously external influences will have an impact on your internal voice, but if you can find a way to get your internal voice on your side, which most people are their biggest critics, they are always talking down to themselves, they're always limiting themselves, and that right there is keeping them from achieving many things in life. Their ideal health, their ideal job, maybe their ideal relationship, whatever it is. The internal voice that we have is crucial to address and to correct if you are in negative thought patterns. I know this very well personally. I was very toxic in my thinking towards myself, especially in my like teenage years. As most of you guys know, I started to lose my hair when I was like 16 or 17, and that was like a huge hit to my ego, and just it really sent me down a path of really toxic negative thinking about myself. And it wasn't until I got into this lifestyle where I was able, it as Dr. Kendra said, the foods we eat can cause inflammation to some of these pathways and to the brain. And so that can, kind of fog your thinking a little bit. And so once I got the inflammatory foods and the packaged processed things and the gluten probably out of my diet, my brain calmed down and I was able to think a little more clearly, and I was able to be more aware of the thought patterns that I had come into. And I realized I didn't want to think that way anymore. Like there was part of me that knew what I was doing, like how I was speaking to myself, and that I shouldn't probably talk to myself like that. But I didn't have the awareness really to be able to make a change. And so once I got that awareness, I decided I would take some steps to correct the way that I spoke to myself. And it made all the difference, right? It put me on a whole new path in life. It changed the way I saw myself. And it changed my actions, because when we feel good about ourselves and we are our biggest supporter, then we're more likely to have the motivation, to have the persistence to continue after what we truly want and what makes us happy. So that would be my first one. And a quick tip for you guys to help you with this. So when I one of the first things I ever did to start changing the way that I viewed myself was just smiling at myself in the mirror, which may seem kind of weird, but it actually helps. When we see ourselves smile, it changes, they're called mirror neurons. So we see somebody smile, it makes us want to smile. If we look at ourselves and we see ourselves smiling, it just changes, the energy within you. And so it's a quick little thing you can do. But also affirmation cards, I think, are very beneficial for a lot of people. And so just 3 quick affirmations you can write, and really you can just put it on like a index card. Just get a pack of index cards and you can read them first thing in the morning and before you go to bed. And that's 2 of the best times that you can really give yourself these affirmations. And so the first one you could put, so these are just like baseline, just starter affirmations that you could use. I love and accept myself for who I am, because I think that's a key for a lot of people. They don't really accept themselves, or truly, they don't have that love for themselves to do, to really nourish their soul. And so when you start to love yourself and understand, that your innate value, I think that's a big key. Second one is, my daily choices create the life I experience. All right. I think a lot of people just kind of gloss over their daily choices and they wonder why they're at the place they're at in life. Well, your daily choices are affecting what happened, what results you're getting. So your daily choices, remember that your daily choices are creating the life that you experience. And the third one is, I hold unlimited potential to create anything I want. All right, so any of us can really do pretty much anything we want, and it just takes direction, persistence, and just belief in ourselves. And so changing the way you speak to yourself, I think, is one of the first things we can do to from a mental angle, how to start getting yourself realigned with happiness, with health, with purpose. And yeah, so that's my first one.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. And it segues nice into one that I was going to talk about too, which I figured it would anyway.
Awesome.
But yeah, I love that. By the way, you look great. Your hair is great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Your shaved head is great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love that. And so you were saying, that's so, yeah. And it's so funny too. Sorry, when you were saying, you change your food. I don't think people realize, like, and it's not that you need to do everything. You don't need to change everything all at once, but
Right.
it really, really helps if you do experience like depression or anxiety or these negative thought patterns, to really look at your food because of that like gut brain, connection.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing, like even when I was in chiro school, which is hilarious. I was so unhealthy in chiropractic school. Oh my God. Because I was so stressed out, and I didn't really know all this yet until later. Like, I really feel like I did most of my, healing afterward.
Sure.
But like, I can totally relate to that. And I was surviving off of coffees in the morning, and then I'd be tired. Then I'd like need a Thai tea to get me through the day. And even just like that overload of sugar and these blood sugar crashes, and then the inflammation in my gut. And I was totally depressed, like driving the car. I'm like, why am I so negative? And like, so I'm just going to like kind of piggyback off what you're saying. And obviously, I mean, hopefully we all like where we live. I don't know, but I'd be driving really long commutes back and forth to school and where I lived in Long Beach. And I just feel like stopping and looking around you to kind of, we all get in these like rumination mindsets, and then we're like thinking of all the things we need to do, or like, why isn't this going the way I want, or blah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I'm so stupid, that, whatever.
Yep.
Which I never say anymore. I'm totally with you on that. That makes such a difference.
Yeah.
I just stopped. I'm like, okay, it's like a physical practice. So it kind of goes along. I wrote that down. Like, my daily choices are creating the life I experience. So, you seriously have to make it a practice to stop when you're in that thought process. Like, the conscious decision is like, okay, no. Like, we're being a negative Nancy right now. Like, stop that.
Yeah.
And then look around you and try to pick out something that you like think is really pretty or that you appreciate. like that, and it's like, okay, now I'm out of that kind of that pattern, because it's just like this domino effect. Once you get into this negative mindset, it just keeps going. And I don't think people realize like they do have the ability to stop that cycle. It's a lot easier if your gut's not inflamed, but there's anyways, like you can do it. It just takes a practice. And the more you practice, the more you stop, oh, no, we're being negative. Okay, let's replace that with a positive thought. It's like,
Yes.
it's so much better.
Yeah.
Um, and then you also said reading those cards in the morning and the evening. And I'm assuming you said that because of like the theta brainwave state.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay. So can I segue into the next then?
Of course. Yeah, go for
Or
it.
do you want to keep, I like, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I
So,
love what you said about when you get into that negative kind of thought pattern to
Mhm.
look at something beautiful or, something in your environment. 'Cause yeah, presence, being present is so, if once you get into that negative mindset, you're out of the present moment and you're just like thinking of all these things. So yeah, so important to remember to be present.
yes. And I mean, it's so easy to get lost and not be present. It's like, and that's, people get lost for hours scrolling on social media. And like,
Yeah,
obviously we like social media. That's how we got connected. It's
right.
cool. Like we get to sit here and talk about this and hopefully help someone, whatever. But
Yep,
I think, for the most part, it is a way just to not be present and get lost in it and
agreed.
compare yourself. And it's just, I try not to be on it.
Yeah.
Really, yesterday I have a hard time with technology anyway. So, okay. So let's segue into the next. So what he just
Perfect.
said, so many patients, especially when they're struggling with that like stress pathway, they keep firing up. And it sounds like you and I both struggled with the same thing, with that mindset. And here, I said earlier, I just thought I was stupid my whole life. And I would
Yeah.
tell myself that all the time. I'd get
Me,
like a bad feedback. I'm like, God, you idiot. Like I've been saying that to myself all the time. It's like,
me too.
oh yeah, that's gonna help me be smarter. Like, of course not. But that's just how I felt. And that I don't know. And then, me feeling that way, other people then also thought that about me too, because I keep saying, anyways, just
Right.
bad, like the domino effect. So with these patients who are stuck in that like fight or flight state, we definitely talk about this. And I can kind of tell after treating them for a while that, maybe they do have that negative self-talk or whatever. So I bring up, obviously people talk about meditation. I think anytime I bring it up, my patients hate it. Like, yeah, okay. Like, I've tried it, doesn't do anything. I'm like, how many times did you try it? I don't know, once or twice. Didn't do anything for me. I'm like, okay, cool. Like you got to
Right.
do it a little more than that. It's the same thing with like this negative thought pattern, right? Like once you have it, you're probably going to keep being negative for like a few weeks. You're still going to have those thoughts creep in, but
Hmm.
it takes practice to like do away with those thoughts. So then this brings me into like hypnosis. Um, so there was a time where I was doing like hypnosis with patients, and now I'm realizing that I can just send recordings that resonate with them because
Hmm.
it's a lot of the same thing. So, and you probably know this too. So when people get in these like negative thought patterns, or they speak negatively, or they choose bad relationships repetitively, or they self-sabotage, or maybe they're doing really well with their diet, they're feeling great, they're losing this weight, whatever, and then all of a sudden they just do a 180 and they go right back to doing, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Like, you were feeling good. I don't know, I have no idea. And it's like you just feel like you're out of control.
Yeah.
That is 100% like a deep rooted subconscious thing going on that you may not even like be aware of, right? Because it's like I'm like picking bad things for myself. Like I'm picking something that's going to fail. I'm doing the wrong things and I know it, but I can't fix it. That's a subconscious thing. So that stems from um, when you're born, like to age 7 or 8, you are more creative, you absorb things better. That's why they say kids are like sponges. It's because you're more in a theta brainwave state at that point. And that's when you can get these beliefs about yourself really like hardwired. And that's why when therapists go back, or I think they use it in EMDR, eye movement, something. Um, they kind of bring you back, and they do that with hypnosis too. They'll bring you back to a time, and it usually stems something from childhood. And it could be the smallest thing. It could be like you weren't picked for a team and that made you feel inadequate,
Hmm.
or you were abused or whatever. Your parents got divorced and you feel unloved from your parents.
Yeah.
Um, so these things happen when you're little, and then, and generally I'll say probably like might even be more than 90% of the time, but like 90% of the time, this always stems from a feeling of not feeling enough, right? I'm not good enough. No one loves me. I'm not, it's like this lack, right?
Yeah.
So, and that I remember I went to therapy like twice in chiro school when I was making all these, I'll say like bad health decisions, and
Hmm.
kind of knew it too, like basically what I just said. And we figured that out. It's like, yeah, you just don't think you're good enough. And I was like, oh, thank you. It's like, thank you. Okay, I'm good. I was like, okay, now I'm gonna work on this. She's like, no, you need to come back. I'm like, no, no, no. Now I know, and I can like go forward. And you just like identifying that. So, and I think a lot of people do kind of know that deep down, but they don't want to admit that that might be it. So that's why I'm just going to talk about it. And to be honest, it's so freaking normal. And this is, I think, a lot of times why people choose to be mean, like they don't feel
Mm.
good enough, and they're going to pick and tear apart someone else so they can feel better. They're going to, you know, troll you on social media because they're feeling inadequate, whatever. So it's like,
Right.
let's not do that. So anyways, so hypnosis is really cool because you get someone into a theta brainwave state, and you are also in that brainwave state if you're a really good meditator.
Mm.
So that's why I talked about the meditation. So I tell my patients, I'm like, hypnosis is really nice because it's almost like a cheat code to meditation. So I think I do meditate. I still really like it. But if you're someone that's trying to rewire a different thought process about yourself, listening to some sort of, you just said you just wrote those down. Like writing things down is great too, but listening to affirmations, ones that feel good and resonate to you, while you're falling asleep, when you're transitioning from, like your awake brainwave state to then theta to delta, that's when you will get this rewiring. And so you don't have to sit and try to like, you know, clear your mind for 20 minutes a day. I think after you listen to these recordings and you start to feel better about yourself, then you naturally want to like meditate and you dive into that more.
Right.
Um, but that's one that I'll do with patients, and I'll just like send. There's just one woman I really like on Spotify, Nikki Sutton.
Mm.
She's a very nice, soothing voice, and she's got like 60 different recordings. And I'll usually send patients there. It's like, hey, and I'll make a suggestion. Hey, maybe this one would be good for you or whatever. But you say like, listen to it, see if it's a message that you want to hear and get rewired into your brain, and like start listening to that before you go to sleep. So that's
Yeah.
another way I think to kind of help with that negative self-talk. And as soon as I started doing that, I started listening to those probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. I don't I don't get down on myself anymore. And I used to be someone who had like the self-deprecating humor,
Mm.
you know,
Me too.
and I don't really do that anymore. And it's kind of cool. And I'm like, oh, like I was like, oh, I think I'm still funny and I'm not putting myself down. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, any questions about that?
Yeah, no, great point. I'm glad you brought that one up because it's definitely something that benefited me as well, right? Who did you say was the person that you like?
Nikki said, let me pull it up to
So,
make sure, and I'll spell the
okay.
way she does it.
Because yeah,
Um,
those types of things really made a big difference for me too. That's actually what I did. Versus, I didn't do the affirmation cards in the beginning. I just pretty much I started listening to people like Les Brown, like motivational speakers like Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn, um, and people like that to and I listened to them almost like constantly for years. Like every free moment I had, I would be listening to those podcasts or those videos.
yes.
And it just, yeah, I just wanted to, and it's not even that I just wanted to like saturate my mind with positivity, but
Yeah.
it just felt so right. It was like
Yeah.
these messages just really resonated. So it was almost like a healthy addiction to just listen to these guys talk.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's better doing that than scrolling on your phone,
yeah,
and that's why, once again, it's like you're not going to be super fit and have lean body mass if you're not putting in consistent effort
Right.
at the gym, right? Like you can't just magically, I mean, unless you're getting stuff done, you know, like whatever,
Yeah.
surgical, but like that takes practice. So it's the same thing with like this mindset. And I'm the same way. So I would always, Brene Brown, well, yeah, Brene Brown, she's more just like cute and motivational, but Abraham Hicks was a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these free videos on YouTube. And anytime I walk my dog, I just throw one on and it was
Yeah.
always, you know, positive. It's pretty much the same message over and over, but you got to hear it over and over, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, she's, I can also, oh yeah, so it's just Nikki, Nicky, and then Sutton, Sutton. And
Perfect.
her little like profile thing is called Sleep Time Meditations with Nikki Sutton.
Perfect.
It's like blue and pink
All right.
logo. Yeah.
Cool. Gonna
Yeah.
check that one out.
Yeah, do it.
All right, sweet. Well, great point. Great point. And I was gonna use this one for my third point, but I'll just, since it ties in with this pretty well. The next thing that I think is important is accountability. So I kind of used these guys, these motivational speakers, somewhat like accountability partners. Obviously we weren't interacting on a one-to-one level, but I think accountability is really important for keeping us on track and, just keeping us motivated and kind of self-aware of our actions that we're committing. And so finding, it doesn't have to be like a formal accountability partner, but if you just have a friend or a family member or just anybody, even if somebody online, that you can, throw ideas back and forth or just share your progress on whatever you're trying to do. Or just talk, have somebody that can help you in the pursuit of, whatever you're trying to do. So, in addition to that, I would say you use the right person for your accountability. For each situation, it's going to be different, right? So, I wouldn't ask my friend who's an accountant to be like my fitness accountability partner, right? Like if I wanted to like really to fine tune my spending habits or whatever, or get good with finances, then maybe my accountant friend would be the best accountability partner for that situation. But my fitness friend, my athletic friend, might be a better accountability partner for, like if I wanted to, put on muscle or get fit, anything like that. So, if possible, if you can find somebody that meets, that has somewhat of the same interest in the thing that you're trying to accomplish, that can be even more beneficial. So, I mean, just an example, like when I work out, right? I don't put on a health podcast or like a health lecture, right? Because even though that is a positive external influence on me, it doesn't really connect in the same way as if I put on some motivational music or, some inspiring music, which just fills me more with the energy I want, and I get more out of my workout when I do it that way. So I kind of look at it the same way with accountability partners. If you can find somebody that can be that motivational music to that activity that you're trying to do, I think that is powerful to have somebody like that can push you and just again keep you honest with what you're doing. Like if you guys are talking every day about what your progress or whatever, I just think that really helps. And I know that for me, even writing my books, so I have 3 books now, and I probably would still be writing my first book if I didn't have the bundles that I've joined, right? Because the bundles were basically like that accountability partner for me. The people that are running the bundles, I made an agreement with them that I would have a book ready for the launch of the bundle, And it got me to the point where I finally, I had been writing my book for years and years. I just kept adding to it and adding to it. And then finally I had this accountability resource that I made an agreement with, that I was going to finish a book. And so I finally fine-tuned what I was, trying to get across into a book, published it. And so that's happened 3 times now. And so just finding ways to keep yourself accountable, I think, is so important. And so that would be my next one, to help you get on track and stay there.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's sorry, what you want to
I
finish
was
your
just
thought?
gonna say, I think people try and do things on their own too often, when it can be great to do things on your own, but at the
Mhm.
same time, having people to kind of talk about it, but close people that are going to be a positive influence. You don't want to, you could share your ideas with, like a family member that's not always supportive, and they might like shut down that idea, and you don't end up doing it. So make sure that it's a positive influence, somebody that's going to support you and just be there for you, like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
It's funny you say that because I just got an accountability buddy.
Oh, wow.
Um, but it's funny though, but she's just a great friend of mine from high school, and we
Cool.
just know each other so well, strengths and weaknesses. And she is in a completely different field, but
Nice.
we'll just get together and almost just like pump each other up,
Yeah.
and then it gets you going for your day. So
Yep.
even just having someone like that, like I get your point and you're correct. It's for especially when you're like sifting through details, or if you're trying to get an action plan together for a fitness thing and like not going to the accountant. But it's also good to have a little cheerleader.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure. Anything
yeah,
works. Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
But it's hard to, especially when you like have your own business, which like she does and I do too. You do feel like you do everything on your own, and you
Yeah.
almost like you have to. It's like, well, no, this is my business. It's like, no, no, no. Like you can use others for help, or just admit like, maybe you do need a little boost today. Like that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Light that fire under your butt to
Yep.
help more people. That's the whole point, right?
Yes.
And then when we get stuck in our perfectionist mindset and we keep making edits to our book,
Right.
it's like what you are bringing to the table is good enough, man. And that's anyways. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we do for each other.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, okay. Wait, so I'm on number 3 now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know which one. I guess they can kind of go together. And well, maybe you're gonna say you might. I think I knew. I don't know. Are you gonna talk about passions?
Nope,
Is that
that's not my last one.
okay?
That's a
Because
good one though.
yeah, I'm gonna kind of like blend two together because I think it's important. So yeah, well, you just said the accountability buddy, but also it's like if you feel stuck, which I feel, we haven't really gone back to like feeling more aligned. I want to make
Mhm.
sure I'm going back to that because I love that.
Yeah.
If you're feeling stuck, a lot of times that does stem, we've kind of gone through it though, like maybe there is something chemical going on, like maybe get with someone and address those things, because that plays a huge role in your ability to handle situations well. Then work on the mind, right? Like that's obviously super key, and not holding yourself back, like don't limit yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, and I will ask my patients sometimes who really feel stuck. I'm like, well, what are you excited about? What gets you fired up? A lot of times they don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's something I've been in states like that. I'm sure
Me
maybe
too.
you do too. You're just kind of like, you wake up, you're like, I mean, yeah, like I love life. Like there's so much to do, but like, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
um, so kind of going back, and that's where I like, your little journal process or writing out the affirmations. It's like,
Yeah.
write down, first of all, I say, like, write down your hobbies. What made you happy as a kid? What did you do as a kid that really made you happy? Okay, cool. If you like really don't know where to start, do you love going on walks with your friends? Like, well, I don't have any friends. I hear this stuff. Okay, I don't have any
Yeah.
friends. Okay, well, you're trying to get in shape. Like, why not try a fitness class? I get so shy. Well, that's like where you're going to meet someone. Just go, like, have an open mind, smile. Like you said, just smile at people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone will come up and talk to you. Like, keep going. Like, the more consistent you are, people love to be with their little tribe, and they see you showing up to class, they're showing up to class. Now you guys have something to bond over. You guys are Thursday at 7 a.m.ers, whatever class you're doing. And you make friends that way, but it's showing up. Okay. So sometimes you have to force yourself to show up, and then good things happen. So like
Yep.
that, for example, like, the fake it till you make it kind of thing. Or once again, like, really figure out what it is you're passionate about. So obviously, I think you and I really want to help others. Like, that's some, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So sometimes though, still you get up and you're like questioning what you're doing, instead of coming from a place of like, well, how can I best help today, or kind of get my ego out of it? How can I throw this book together quickly? Or like, I'm working on a course right now
Nice.
for postpartum moms, because I really feel like there's a need for information in that area.
Yeah.
So almost done with it,
Sweet.
but it took me a while. And that's actually why I needed the accountability friend. So, because I was coming from a place of, okay, well, oh no, it needs this and it needs more. And no, it doesn't. Like, even this information I have right now, why am I putting this information out there? I'm doing this to help someone who's confused, who isn't getting the right education from their doctor, who thinks that they're going to get over their baby blues and they'll be fine in a few weeks, when their hormones are tanked, their HPA axis is messed up, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, just put this thing together. You can always edit it and make it better if you need, but like, you need to share this information. If you have this information, share it, spread it, like, so I think it's just finding that, like, really that passion. So I think some people don't necessarily know, um, or I had one patient who said they really loved volunteering and playing music, but they don't like really find time to do it. But they're picking all these daily habits, going back to the thing he said, my daily choices are creating the life I experience. He's picking habits to where he has no freaking energy because of what food choices, and not really moving his body, having those negative thought patterns, to where then he didn't feel energized, like he wanted to go volunteer and help the kids in the band and play his music and be creative in that way.
Yeah.
So even like for me, like, we just talked, I love playing golf now. I love it. Hey, like, it's so fun. Full Swing.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Full Swing, go watch it. On Netflix. So not that that's why I do what I do, but I love it. I try to make time for it, but I do things in my life to where I have time for that. I don't go out and party all night anymore.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I like to get up early and I like to go play golf, and I like to go on walks with my girlfriends and have good positive conversations. And, it's just like picking these things that contribute, positively impact you, versus binge watching a show till 2 a.m., eating crap food where you wake up and you don't feel well. Those are just examples, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think really just kind of writing down what makes you happy, what fires you up, and then how can I build a life like around that, and wake up with that every morning. Like, okay, great. How can I help these people today? Kind of like take yourself out of it. I think that's usually when people get stuck, is when they are too worried about how they're perceived in this effort to help, or whatever they're trying to do in their workplace, whatever it is. And I think it's just, no, take yourself out of it. Like, and then you'll end up probably attracting and feeling the way you want, if you show up and serve the way that you're hoping to. So
yeah. Love it. And I like that you said sometimes you have to force yourself to do some of these things, and like getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, maybe. And I know that for me, in college, again, I still was in a very negative mindset, where I also thought I was just not intelligent. So I was usually, unless I was drinking, I was usually pretty, to myself. Like, I didn't really put myself out there too much. And so, in business statistics class, which I was like totally lost. The kid that was answering all the questions from the professor, I just the weirdest, like, it's not something that I would normally do, but I went up to him after class and I asked him if he wanted to study together because I knew I needed some help studying for that class. And we ended up becoming best friends, and like we were like best friends for, we're still friends. So it's just like, and that friendship actually, brought both of us a lot of benefits, like long term. So um, it just goes to show that when you do put yourself, out of your comfort zone a little bit, and for me, I think it was, I was following my intuition. Like there was just something that said, this guy is somebody that I should probably introduce myself to. And when you follow that gut feeling, that intuition, a lot of times it's going to lead you to something that is going to open more doors for you, and create opportunities that you never could have possibly imagined. So reaching out to somebody that you feel an intuitive connection to, that you think that, you guys could connect and create something or whatever it is. Follow that gut instinct and follow your intuition, because I can tell you from that experience for me and so many others like that, it can turn into something really cool. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. You want me to move on to my last one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. And then we'll get into the Q&A here. All right. So
Okay.
my last one will be a quick one. I know we're past 12 o'clock already, so it's been an amazing almost hour that we've been going here. So again, I appreciate all the wisdom you've shared with us. But yeah, my third one is to work on your sleep. All right, I think this is another one that is just like fundamental, and it is one of the most neglected things that people do, right? And when you sleep better, you think better, obviously, and just everything. You'll have more energy. You'll think clearer. Um, you're going to be more creative. There's going to be so many benefits to sleeping better, and I think creating the right environment for your sleep is something that's important as well. I think a lot of people go straight from scrolling through Instagram, they're looking at their phone, they're getting that blue light in their eyes, and they're suppressing the melatonin production that they're going to be producing throughout the night, which is going to hinder them from getting that REM sleep, right? That really healing, nourishing phase of sleep. So, yeah, I would say, try. So, just 3 quick things to try and start working on your sleep is one, and you've probably heard these things, but they are so true. Do not look at screens for at least like an hour before you go to bed, if you can. A lot of people, again, and I'm guilty of this too. I've gone through periods where, so the best I have felt sleeping and the most refreshed I felt waking up in the morning has been just a little while ago. I went through like a month experiment where 2 hours roughly before bedtime, I would dim my lights, I would not look at my phone, and I would read a book instead of looking at Instagram or making a post or watching a YouTube video. I would actually read a book, which I love doing now. I never used to love doing that until I changed everything in my life. So, and it just, now I love to learn, and so I read a book. You don't have to do that, but that's just what I found to be a nice way to end the day. And then let's see, what else did I do? Yeah, basically I just stayed away from bright lights. You can get lights, you can get LED lights that you can change the colors, and I know they say that like orange and red, if you can have orange and red color, that helps at the end of the day. So you can, there's multicolored LED lights. You just use a remote and you can switch the color of the light, and then you can dim it as well. If you're all right with LED lights, they do give off more blue light, and even if you are getting towards bedtime and you're looking at even a bright orange or red, that's still going to suppress melatonin. So any bright light, from what I understand, suppresses the melatonin. And so you don't want to be around bright lights before bed. And then definitely do something that is not electronic related, like an hour, maybe 2 hours if that's possible for you. I know not everybody's out there posting on social media, so this might be easier for, some of the people that are just kind of passive social media users. But the thing that kind of got me out of my little experiment of doing this was because I'm writing a new book. And so I only have so much time in a day. And so usually when I write a book, it's honestly, I neglect a lot of the things that I teach, like getting to bed early, not looking at screens, exercising more. There's just
Yeah.
so much time that I have to write the book. So I kind of unfortunately put some of these things to the side a little bit for a little while until I finish the book. But when I get back, once I finish this book, I'm going back to that because I did notice a big difference in how I felt when I woke up in the mornings. So yeah, I guess that would just be a quick one for me, is just to, work on your sleep, try and get to bed early if you can. Going to bed earlier makes me feel way better. And then just reducing the amount of bright lights, especially LEDs, like on your phone, can be helpful. So, and when you feel, when you get that good sleep, you, like I said earlier, you think clearer, right? And when you think clearer, you make better decisions. And like we were talking about, the daily decisions we make are creating the life that we experience. If you want to make the best decisions possible, you want to have your brain working as clearly and efficiently as possible. So, doing the things that we know are important for proper brain health and brain function, like getting enough sleep, being hydrated, eating a antioxidant rich diet, these things are so important for the brain. So yeah, that I think is a good thing to think about when trying to get back into alignment with your goals and your dream life.
Absolutely. I agree.
All
And
right.
if you're like me and you have a bunch of neighbors on top of you and they have their lights on, like get some blackout curtains, and
Yes.
I would wear earplugs to bed. And I don't know about you, I cannot sleep with an eye mask on.
Me neither. Nope.
I always end up tearing it off. So I have to do the blackout curtains. But if that works for you, that's great too. But
Yep.
and then also listening to the hypnotic recordings before you go to
Yes.
bed.
Right.
And I didn't even say quick thing because it goes along with your sleep. So when you listen to those, most of the time you need to listen to like 21 to 30 days. I just
Mm.
say listen to it every night. If you're really struggling, keep listening to it. Keep
Okay.
going. You can get on a different subject too that you want to work on. Um, but download the episode, put your phone in airplane mode if that's possible
Right.
for you, unless you have like kids that need to get a hold. I know some people can't put their phones in airplane mode.
Sure.
But download the episode and then listen to it so you're not having the EMF waves at you too at night. Like try
Yes.
to mitigate that as much as possible as well. But that also helps. Like I've had a lot of patients who started listening to the hypnotic recordings, and just having that kind of like soothing sound as they're going to sleep also helped them fall asleep too.
Sure.
So yeah.
Love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
great point about the EMFs. Definitely, I think people have heard me talk about this a lot too, but it's like, do not sleep with your phone next to you, especially by your head, but anywhere by your body, because, yeah, it's not something that you want pumping into you while your body is trying to heal, right? When we're sleeping, that's like the most healing point of the day for us. And if you're doused with EMF radiation, it's not going to help that process.
It's not good. Yeah.
No.
If anyone has if they're concerned about that, they can absolutely reach out to me too. I have some things that I use. I don't know if you've heard of EMF rocks, but those things work really well. But if
Okay. Cool.
anyone has a question about that, I'm happy to, or I'll share the information with you after.
Sweet. Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, wow. Thank you so much. Those are great points, great discussions, and I really appreciate that. So, um, before we get into the Q&A quick, again, the links to Dr. Kendra's website and her Instagram are both down below, so I really encourage you all to go follow her and, check out her resources and stay tuned for that course that she's coming out with for you women out there. So, all right. Cool. You ready for some questions?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. We're heading over to the Q&A room. Pull up the blackboard. Let's get these questions flowing in here. So I did see a few come in already. So let's see. We've got Blazed Bunny says, can HPA dysfunction essentially cause scoliosis in a child?
Okay, that's an interesting one. Um, was the like okay, so cranial faults. So basically, when babies are born, like the kids that get put into a helmet because
Mm-hmm.
their cranium's also off. Like, I would be curious to know if that was a thing
Mm,
also, because that can cause issues down the spine. I there's so many things we could have talked about today, to be honest, and I
yeah.
even have more, but like, because um having different cranial issues even into adulthood, like we have all these sutures in different cranial bones, and if there's any pressure or lack of flex and movement in those areas, it can cause imbalance down the spine as well.
Mm,
So I'm curious, like the severity of the scoliosis. But to answer that question, I'd say it's probably more of that like cranial fault thing. But that also can be attributed to an HPA axis dysfunction.
sure.
So yes, I guess the answer is yes. But it would be, I can't give like a straight answer because I don't know exactly what's going on. But yes,
Yeah.
it can, yes, but I would say maybe like the severity, I would need to see that to really be able to say that. But I do know that like a lot of stress can cause the cranial bones to be off. It can cause issues down at, the low back region, like I said. So yes.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, let's see here. Is that the only question that you guys put in there? Let's get some more questions, guys. What do you got? All right, let's see. I'll come up with one to until somebody else puts one in. So let's see what. What is? Now I'm blanking.
It's okay. It's like I could just keep saying things that are helpful. I don't
Yeah.
know, but honestly, I don't know why when you said this subject, and you kind of mentioned COVID. Um, I this sounds so cheesy, and I feel like I'm on like a soapbox or something, but uh I think everyone's feeling this. Like, don't you just feel that there's this huge rise in like hate against people in general? And I was kind of mentioning that with like
Yeah.
demonizing food, and it's like, now this person doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. They're saying that, like, whatever. And yes, I agree. I do think some people are like, what are you saying? Like, oatmeal's bad. Are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
you know, but and obviously some people have reactions to foods depending on their immune system and whatever. And
Yeah.
but anyway, I just think since even like the Trump elections and then COVID, there's
Yep.
just been such a divide. And I really think, like, and this goes with the mental piece, to get back into that alignment. And I know a lot of people who were really affected, like their families affected from COVID,
Mm-hmm.
based on like decisions that they decided to make to
Yeah.
vaccinated or not.
Yep.
It still affects a lot of my patients. I know that story really well, and had to work through all that. And the way I did work through it was on it. This is where it sounds cheesy and I'm like a hippie, but I had a lot of family members really angry at me. And I think you can probably guess I did not get vaccinated, which I don't mind sharing.
Yeah.
So and I, you try to explain your side over and over, and I totally understand where they're coming from. Like, I don't really care what you decided to do. And I think that's where
Right.
people need to, it's like, whatever your neighbor decided to do, whatever your family member decided to do, why are we so quick to get on defense and be mean or tear this person down or cut them from your life?
Yeah.
Um, it's like, just be kind. Like, even on
Mhm.
social media with all this stuff, just be kind. Like, that alone, like, if you lead with like a loving heart, and I literally every morning talk about the practice. This one woman, this business mentor, she said every morning she woke up and she would pick something or someone to send love to. Like, she'd literally sit
Mm.
there and be like, I'm gonna send love to this person, or like, I mean, it sounds stupid, like that tree outside. Oh, that's so pretty. Okay, great. I'm gonna send love that direction. I would always send it to someone, especially people who were like mad at me
Mm.
um, for my decisions. And that helped me so much. And then, then I talk to them later. Well, aren't you really angry? Aren't you angry that, this is that? No, I'm not.
Mhm.
And the fact that you are is actually doing more harm to you. And I'm sad for that. But it would, in terms of like this getting back into alignment, leading from that place and looking at people in that way. I think if you look at everyone like, you don't have to like absolutely love everyone, but if you come from that kind of space, then nice things tend to happen around you and better things tend to happen. And you do get more of those smiles back and forth. Like these better interactions. And
Yeah.
I mean, that just, to me, does so much more for your health versus holding on to a grudge, giving someone crap for the way they eat or a decision they've made or
Yeah.
who they voted for. Like, come on, like, we're all people. We're all doing the best we can. Um, we're all just trying to navigate this life the best we can. So maybe if you look at people in that way and love them for that, then I think your health is a lot better in the long run. So, anyways, I felt the need to say that. I'm done. Off
Yeah.
my soapbox.
Yeah, no, that was great. And I as well did not take that, didn't take the shot. So I think, and yeah, it's a topic that it was difficult, especially in the midst of all that,
Yeah.
dealing with all the backlash, the fear, the anger, and it's yeah, it's tough, especially when it divides families or friendships or any of that stuff. Because something that I've noticed is that fear fear is what causes people to make, and this isn't like my own revel. Yeah, obviously, many people have probably spoken to this, but it's probably pretty obvious. But fear makes people do a lot of things that are very irrational and things that they typically, if they were thinking clearly, they would not do, or they would maybe approach it differently than they do when they're in that fear state. Um, fear is really what I've seen people do some really barbaric things, based on out of just a fear reaction. And I know they're not bad people. It's
Yeah.
just they were in a state that made them, fearful and act in a certain way. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think, like you said, it's important to have compassion as much as you can for understanding that people are acting out of fear. And it doesn't mean that you should hold on to that anger, like you mentioned. I
Mhm.
think, what is the quote? Resentment, or no, hate. Maybe hate is like drinking poison and expecting it to harm your enemy or something like that, right? So it's like,
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But I can't recite it. But yes, I know what you're
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically you're only harming yourself by ruminating and just getting angry in your own mind over what other people are doing. While it can be frustrating, I totally get that, and I'm not perfect with this either, but the more that we can be aware of, our own personal mental state and just trying to be balanced as much as we can,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great point, and it fits very well with this conversation, and getting back into alignment with our own, where we're trying to go.
Yeah. like, just like be kind to yourself, be kind to others, like end of
Yeah.
story, you know?
Right.
It's- Boil it down to that.
Yeah,
It's,
it's
it's,
it's a simple message. I think everybody can
yeah,
get behind that.
yeah. But it's somehow, I don't know why it seems lately it's just been harder, or I just feel like I keep seeing the opposite of that. It's like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, go back to kindergarten, treat others, or wait, treat others the way you want to be treated, or yeah, something like that, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we just have lost that. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. Totally. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sherry says, hope Dr. Kendra appears on the game show in the future. The invitation's always there. Does she
Yeah.
have recommendations on water? Do you have a preference on the type of water you drink?
I mean, I have an AquaTrue. I
Okay.
think that's probably like the better filtered. I know you like distilled. I think
Yep.
distilled's great as well because you're getting everything out.
Sure.
I think uh distilled seems to be a little bit more expensive if you maybe can't go for that option. Like, I think the AquaTrue is good, but that's what I use at home.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But I'm a fan
And
of
that's reverse
both.
osmosis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think reverse osmosis is great too. So, really, my only concern is with whatever water somebody drinks. I just tell people, hey, get the bad stuff out, and other than that, like, yeah, I think you're good to go. But get out the bad
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah, but if you're not making any effort to get it out, like
uh, yeah,
it's not good. And honestly, like whatever anyone can afford, but like
yep,
those Brita filters are the basic filters. They're really not great, you know.
right,
So if you have an option to get a different, little more heavy duty filter or a distiller, then
yeah.
that should be probably like the first goal.
Yeah, agreed. And
Yeah.
and even if you don't want to buy either one, what I used to do is go. A lot of grocery stores these days have reverse osmosis dispensers where you can bring your own jugs. So
Yeah.
what I did was I bought like 10. So at our co-op, this was like 10 years ago. They had a sale on apple cider, which comes in glass gallon jugs. It was literally like $2 or something, $2 a jug. And if you were to buy just a glass jug, a gallon glass jug on uh, Amazon or somewhere, they're expensive. So if you can find like a sale like that on glass jugs, that's what I would probably do. But you can just bring your own containers in to a lot of grocery stores these days, and they have a reverse osmosis dispenser. I would say test it at least with a TDS meter because they can. It depends. The efficiency and the effectiveness is only going to be as good as how well they take care of it. I have
Right.
found really variant results from different
Interesting.
grocery stores, so you never really know if their machine is working right. So just that would be my quick tip.
That is a good tip.
Thank you. Sherry says, did she discuss flexibility? Do you do yoga? She said, I know there are structural and mental causes to stiffness, but wondering how stretching could play a role in healing.
Yeah. So no, absolutely. I think like stretching is important. I just think sometimes there's too much emphasis on it. It's like when you don't know what to say, well, like, are you stretching? Just stretch, like then everything will be better. So that my only reason for highlighting those is because I think most people think, to stretch first. That's kind of where everyone's thought process goes when they're tight.
Yeah.
But I do think the best way to stretch is like in something like yoga based because you're in that like hopefully you're in that calmer state,
Yeah.
and that actually will allow you to get more benefit from it. If you're thinking of all the million things you have to do and you're on a phone call and you're stressed and then you're trying to like stretch it out, like you're probably not doing a whole lot, I'll be honest. So if you have time, um, even like 10-15 minutes a day, like pull up a YouTube, free one, and do some yoga stretching. I think that is really great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. And last question. Mallory says, it would be fun to hear her speak about the connection between the jaw and the pelvis. She said,
Mm.
I have a left lateral pelvic tilt because my left molars don't touch. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, interesting. Have you had your TMJ addressed? Like, do you get it worked on?
Question.
Is she typing? I don't know what's
Yeah, I'm not sure.
happening.
Nothing's coming through yet, but
Okay. Well, then I can talk on that more. So,
okay.
and that's so, like in my practice, you know, how I was talking about the cranium being off. I will assess that a lot. Pretty much with every patient that comes
Mm,
in. And you can do these tests. So, like applied kinesiology, you're essentially you're testing groups of muscles that are related to a certain nerve level,
mm,
which then also, like I was mentioning earlier, is related to certain organ function or these groups of muscles, right? So you can test, like, let's L1, 2, 3 nerve root, and well, T11, 12, what, like, lower thoracic, upper lumbar spine. We'll talk about like this HPA axis thing controls like kidneys and then your adrenal glands, right? And then that
yeah.
same nerve root goes out and controls the QL, the hip flexors, like the psoas, part of adductor. You know, obviously every person isn't a perfect, um, it's not going to be those nerve roots every time. There's some overlap with where the nerves grow and what they innervate, right? Or what they control. So
Mhm.
sometimes it can affect quads, adductors, calf muscles. A lot of times will go with that same pathway. So, okay. So when I'm assessing someone, I will make sure that their cranium is moving right. Because a lot of people have, even if you're like looking at someone's face, sorry, all of a sudden I'm getting a tickle. Like maybe they'll have one part of their head that's like sticking out a little bit more. And
Mm,
most people would not notice this. It's just something that I'm looking for. Or, you know, their eye levels are off. Or, you know, she's talking about like her jaw being off and maybe her molars aren't connecting.
mm,
If you have some sort of pull and tension, or like your temporalis muscle goes right here and attaches into the jaw, if this is tight and pulling, it can pull everything off.
mm,
That pulls off your body's basically like spatial awareness and your cerebellum, which is like in control of your balance, and can throw everything off down the spine, which is
wow.
why I was saying that person that asked about can HPA axis dysfunction cause that scoliosis. Sure, and probably because the cranium is off, there's
Mm,
stress in the cranium from abnormal pull and tension, and then that's pulling everything down the spine, if that
mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying to her, have you had your TMJ looked at? Because I will, you know, you can do muscle tests on people. So you like, are they strong? Great. Have them open their mouth. Do they go weak? Okay, there's an issue with this then, right?
Mm,
This is making you weak. You opening your mouth, which we do all the time when we talk, when we eat, right? Like,
yeah.
so you want to make sure that that's moving right, because that can affect you all the way down your spine. Like
Wow.
even like your tailbone pain can be affected by that. So that's why I was wondering if she's had that properly like assessed and worked on, because then maybe that would actually help her molar alignment.
Cool. Wow. Yeah, she hasn't responded, but I think
Well,
that that's probably it sounded
hopefully that
very helpful to
answered.
me. So,
Yeah. Oh, well,
yeah.
I mean, I guess so. Here, I'll give her this. And really for anyone. So, you know, something maybe you can do at home, like to try to assess your, like I said, it's probably better if you go to someone who can assess this better. But, you know, if you do look in the mirror and you notice like some facial asymmetry, or even like in the head, feel around, palpate your head. You're like, ooh, that really, really hurts there.
Mm,
Okay, great. I'm going to try to like rub the suture and kind of like open it up a little bit. Like, did anything change? Is anything different?
wow.
My jaw, like test the masseter muscle. Oh, this really hurts. Okay, great. I'm gonna work this out. Just do stuff like that, right?
Mm,
It's you're really not gonna hurt yourself by doing that. Like, I think people are afraid to like work on their necks and, you know, do like fascial stuff on their face. Like, it's not really gonna hurt anything. And then
mhm.
see if that makes the jaw feel better. I mean,
Cool.
hopefully that helps a little bit. I mean, there's lots of specific things you can do internally, I would not suggest you doing that, because that like requires a little bit more training.
Sure.
But you can at least start with that and the temporalis muscle up here that attaches into there, and see like, oh, is there tension there? Yes, there is a lot of tension. I'm gonna work that out.
Very cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, this has been incredible. So glad that we were able to have you on. And before we sign off, let me quick do the drawing. So again, I'm still working on coming up with a better way. I'm actually going to have one. We found one. I just haven't worked it into the program here yet. But so for now, I'm just going to scroll. And once I land on somebody that asked a question, they will win the ebook copy of 5-Star Salad Revolution. Let's see. Just gonna. All right, Mallory. Mallory, you can get a copy of 5-Star Salad Revolution. So be sure to email me at matt@myrawintuition.com, and you can get that free ebook. I hope you enjoy it. And Dr. Kendra, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on. You're incredible, and I hope people will definitely go follow you on Instagram, as well as check out your website. Do you have a newsletter or anything?
I do. I haven't quite started it yet.
Okay, but you can sign up for it.
But I saw that you signed up for it. So yeah, it'll be coming.
Okay.
Slow roll. But yeah, if you want to sign up for a newsletter, please do.
Cool.
Or yeah, I'm probably a little bit more active on my Instagram. But
sure.
Yeah, this has been super fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Truly. All right. Well, yeah, hope to have you on again at some point. We can go on another topic. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. And everybody else, tune back in about a half an hour. We're going to have the game show. We've got JJ and Amber going at it, holistic health trivia. And so definitely tune in for that. It's going to be a fun time. But yeah, until then, thank you again, Dr. Kendra. And thank you, everybody out there that tuned in today, for your participation in the Q&A and just for being here. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.